A young bride, broken and betrayed, stands on the edge of her final choice. But when a Cherokee warrior's calm voice cuts through her despair, everything changes. What he asks her will haunt you, and might change how you see your own strength. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from, and why you're following this. Sarah Miller stood at the edge of the cliff, her wedding dress torn and muddied from her desperate run through the forest. Tears streaked her face as she looked down at the rushing waters of Eagle Creek below. The year was 1876, and her world had collapsed just hours ago, when she discovered her fiancé James with another woman on what was supposed to be their wedding day. "There's nothing left for me now," she whispered, the cool autumn breeze carrying her words away. Her family had invested everything in this marriage, a union meant to save their struggling farm outside Willow Springs, a small settlement in the Western Territories. Now, not only was her heart shattered, but her family would lose everything. She closed her eyes, ready to step forward into oblivion, when a deep voice cut through her despair. "Who taught you to give up?" Sarah spun around, nearly losing her footing on the rocky ledge. Standing several yards behind her was a tall Cherokee man, his long black hair partially braided and adorned with a single eagle feather. He wore a blend of traditional Cherokee clothing and settler attire, buckskin leggings beneath a simple cotton shirt. His dark eyes held neither judgment nor pity, only a profound steadiness that somehow anchored her. "This doesn't concern you," she said, her voice cracking. "Please, just leave me be." The man took a careful step forward. "My name is Ayoka. It means he brings happiness. Strange that I should find someone so determined to end theirs." "You know nothing about me or what I've suffered," Sarah said bitterly. "I know that white dress means a wedding day," Ayoka replied, "and I know that cliff edge means an ending. The question is whether this story deserves to end today." Something in his calm confidence made Sarah hesitate. "My fiancé betrayed me. My family will lose everything because of me. I've failed everyone." Ayoka tilted his head slightly. "So you believe your worth is measured only by what this man thinks of you? By whether you secured a marriage?" His question struck her like a physical blow. No one in her life had ever suggested her value might exist independently from her role as daughter, fiancée, future wife, and mother. "I don't know what else I'm supposed to be," she admitted quietly. "Perhaps that is something worth discovering," Ayoka said, extending his hand. "But you cannot discover it if your story ends today." Sarah looked back at the churning waters below, then at the outstretched hand of this stranger. Something in his eyes spoke of having known his own profound sorrows, yet here he stood, solid as the mountains themselves. With trembling legs, she took a step away from the edge, then another. When she was safely away from the cliff, her knees buckled. Ayoka caught her before she hit the ground. "My village is not far," he said gently. "My sister Amma can tend to you, give you food and a place to rest." "Why would you help me?" Sarah asked, suddenly wary. She had been raised with stories about the savage Indians, though her own father had always spoken against such prejudice, having traded fairly with Cherokee merchants for years. "Because all lives have purpose," Ayoka replied simply, "even when we cannot see it ourselves." As they walked slowly through the forest, Sarah's mind whirled with confusion. The wedding guests would be searching for her by now. What would her parents think? How could she face the humiliation of returning to town? But the steady presence of Ayoka beside her kept her moving forward, one foot after another, away from the cliff and toward an uncertain future. "The path ahead is not easy," Ayoka said, seeming to read her thoughts. "But the Cherokee have a saying, 'Don't let yesterday use up too much of today.'" As the trees thinned, Sarah caught sight of a small settlement nestled in the valley below. Unlike the rigid grid layout of Willow Springs, these homes followed the natural contours of the land, with gardens woven between dwellings and smoke rising gently from several fire pits. "This is Tsalagi Uweti, Cherokee Nation," Ayoka explained, "a small part of what remains to us after the Great Removal. We stay here by agreement with your government, though few in the white settlements know of our presence." Sarah suddenly realized how far she had run in her despair. "I didn't know there was a Cherokee settlement so close to Willow Springs." "There is much that people do not see when they choose not to look," Ayoka replied. his voice carrying no bitterness, only a quiet resignation. As they descended toward the village, a young woman with kind eyes spotted them and rushed forward. She wore a beautiful dress with intricate beadwork, her long hair adorned with small decorative combs. "Brother, who is this you bring to us?" she asked in English, eyeing Sarah's torn wedding dress with concern. "This is—" Ayoka paused, realizing he had never asked her name. "Sarah," she supplied quietly. "Sarah Miller. She needed help, Amma," Ayoka explained. "I found her at Eagle Cliff." Understanding dawned in Amma's eyes. Everyone knew what it meant to be found at Eagle Cliff, a place of endings for their people as well. Without another word, she took Sarah's hand and led her toward one of the homes. "You can rest here," Amma said kindly. "Tomorrow will be time enough for decisions." As Sarah followed, exhaustion suddenly overwhelmed her. The emotional turmoil, the long run through the forest, the moment at the cliff, it all crashed down upon her at once. The last thing she remembered was Amma helping her to a soft sleeping mat, covering her with a warm blanket, and whispering, "Sleep now, sister of sorrow. Tomorrow the sun rises again." Sarah awoke to the gentle sounds of morning, birds singing, soft voices conversing outside, and the crackle of a cooking fire. For a moment she was disoriented, expecting to find herself in her bedroom at the farm. Then the memories flooded back. James's betrayal, her flight through the forest, the cliff, and Ayoka. She sat up slowly, noticing that someone had replaced her torn wedding dress with a simple cotton shift. A bowl of water sat nearby, along with a comb made of bone. With trembling hands, Sarah washed her face and attempted to tame her tangled hair. "You are awake." Amma entered the dwelling with a wooden bowl of food. "I have brought you breakfast, cornmeal porridge with berries and honey." "Thank you," Sarah said softly, accepting the bowl. "For everything. I don't know what would have happened if your brother hadn't found me." Amma's eyes grew serious. The spirits guided him to that place. It was not chance. Sarah wasn't sure how to respond to this. The religion she had been raised with didn't speak of spirits guiding people, but she couldn't deny that something remarkable had happened yesterday. "Your dress is being washed," Amma continued. "It was beautiful once. Perhaps it can be again." Sarah shook her head. "I never want to see that dress again. It represents everything I've lost." Amma sat beside her. "My brother told me little of your story. Will you share it with me?" Sarah found herself pouring out the whole painful tale, how she had loved James since childhood, how their families had arranged the marriage that would join their lands and save her family's struggling farm, how she had found him embracing her cousin just hours before the ceremony. "He laughed when I confronted him," Sarah said, tears welling up again. "He said he never loved me, that it was just about the land, and now my family will lose everything because I couldn't even manage to secure this marriage." Amma listened without interrupting, her face showing compassion but not pity. When Sarah finished, she said simply, "So you believed your only value was in this marriage?" It was the second time in 2 days that someone had questioned this fundamental assumption of her life. Sarah had never considered any other path. Women in her world married, had children, and supported their husbands. What else was there? "I don't know who I am without it," Sarah admitted. "Then perhaps this is your opportunity to discover that," Amma suggested. "Come, the day has begun, and there is work to do. Work helps clear the mind." Outside, the village was alive with activity. Children played between the dwellings. Women worked at cooking fires or tended gardens, and men returned from hunting or crafted tools. Sarah noticed that while some aspects of the village seemed traditional, others showed clear influence from white settlers. Metal cookware beside clay pots, cotton clothing alongside buckskin, even a few books visible in one dwelling. Amma introduced Sarah to several women who greeted her with cautious friendliness. "Sarah will be staying with us for a time," Amma explained, offering no further details about her circumstances. "You can help us with the harvest," an older woman named Unol said. "Many hands make the work lighter." Sarah followed the women to a garden plot where they were harvesting squash, beans, and corn. The three sisters, as Amma called them. Though she had grown up on a farm, Sarah had little experience with actual fieldwork, having been kept busy with household tasks. Her inexperience showed, but the women patiently taught her how to identify ripe vegetables and harvest them without damaging the plants. By midday, Sarah's back ached and her hands were dirty, but she felt strangely satisfied. Physical labor had given her mind a rest from its circular thoughts of shame and loss. As they took a break to eat, Sarah noticed Ayoka returning with several other men, carrying a deer they had hunted. He nodded acknowledgement when he saw her, but didn't approach. "Your brother seems very wise," Sarah said to Amma. Amma smiled sadly. "Wisdom often comes at a price. Ayoka lost his wife and son to sickness 3 winters ago. The white doctor in town refused to treat them." Sarah felt a pang of shock and guilt. "That's terrible, I didn't know." "How could you?" Amma replied without accusation. "Our sorrows are invisible to your people, just as your settlement is built on land where our ancestors lived for generations." This simple statement forced Sarah to confront how little she knew about the people whose land she occupied. Her father had always insisted on fair trading with the native merchants who occasionally came to town, but even he spoke of them as remnants of a vanishing race, not as people with ongoing lives and communities. Later that afternoon, as Sarah helped prepare vegetables for the evening meal, Ayoka approached her. "You seem stronger today," he observed. "The work helps," Sarah admitted, "though I'm sure I'm not very good at it." A hint of a smile touched Ayoka's lips. "All skills improve with practice." "Amma told me about your wife and son," Sarah said hesitantly. "I'm so sorry." Ayoka's face grew still. "Thank you. Their names were Galalahi and Wahali. I speak them so they are remembered." "How did you—" Sarah struggled to find the right words. "How did you continue after such a loss?" Ayoka was quiet for a long moment. "There were days I considered the cliff as well," he finally said. "But my people needed me, and I believe that Galalahi and Wohali would want me to live fully, not merely survive." Sarah thought about her own situation. Her pain was real, but was it comparable to Ayoka's loss? And what would it mean to live fully, not merely survive? "I don't know if I can go back," she said. "The shame, the gossip, and my family's disappointment." "Do you believe your family would rather lose their daughter than their farm?" Ayoka asked bluntly. The question startled her. "Of course not, but I've failed them." "Perhaps," Ayoka said, "you should let them decide if you have failed. The sun sets soon. Tomorrow, if you wish, I will take you back to your family." Fear clutched at Sarah's heart, but she knew he was right. She couldn't hide in this village forever. Whatever came next, she would have to face it. That evening, as the community gathered around the central fire to share the day's hunt, Sarah sat quietly beside Amma, watching the interactions between families. Despite their hardships, there was laughter, storytelling, and a sense of belonging that touched something deep within her. An elder began to sing, his voice rising and falling in a language Sarah didn't understand. The melody carried a haunting beauty that transcended the barrier of language. "He sings of resilience," Ayoka translated softly, having sat down nearby, "of how our people have faced removal from our lands, sickness, and broken promises, yet we remain. The song says, 'We are still here, we remember, we continue.'" As the stars appeared overhead and the fire cast dancing shadows across the gathering, Sarah felt something shift within her. The pain of James's betrayal hadn't disappeared, but somehow it had become just one part of her story, not its conclusion. "I'm ready to go home tomorrow," she said quietly to Ayoka. "Whatever awaits me there." He nodded, a look of respect in his eyes. "Then we will leave at first light." Dawn broke with a gentle mist rising from the valley as Sarah prepared to leave the Cherokee village. Amma had given her a simple dress of cotton, decorated with subtle beadwork around the collar. "It is not fancy like your wedding dress," Amma said apologetically, "but it will serve until you reach home." "It's beautiful," Sarah replied, touching the intricate beadwork. "I don't know how to thank you for your kindness." Amma embraced her warmly. "Live well, Sarah Miller. That will be thanks enough." Several other villagers came to bid her farewell, including Unol, who pressed a small pouch into her hands. "Seed corn," the older woman explained, "from our strongest plants. May they grow strong for your family." The simple gift brought tears to Sarah's eyes. These people, who had so little themselves, still found something to give. Ayoka waited patiently with 2 horses, one of which Sarah recognized as the mount she had abandoned during her desperate flight through the forest 2 days ago. "Your horse found its way to our hunting party yesterday," Ayoka explained. "A good sign, I think." The journey back would take most of the day, following forest paths rather than the main roads. As they rode, Sarah's anxiety grew with each passing mile. "What will I tell them?" she asked, breaking a long silence. "My parents, the townspeople." "The truth," Ayoka suggested, "that you needed time to think after discovering your fiancé's betrayal." "And about you? Your people?" Sarah asked. "Few in town even know your village exists." Ayoka considered this. "Some secrets protect both sides. Perhaps it is enough to say you found shelter with kind strangers." They stopped to rest the horses near a small stream at midday. As Sarah refilled their water skins, she noticed Ayoka had grown unusually alert, his head tilted as though listening intently. "Someone approaches," he said quietly. 3 riders. Before Sarah could respond, 3 men on horseback emerged from the trees. With a jolt of recognition, she identified James and 2 of his friends, all looking trail-worn and grim. "Sarah!" James exclaimed, his expression a mixture of relief and anger. "We've been searching everywhere for you." Sarah felt her heart racing but forced herself to stand straight and meet his gaze steadily. "As you can see, I'm perfectly fine." James dismounted, eyeing Ayoka with open hostility. "Has this savage been holding you captive? Did he take you from the wedding?" "No," Sarah replied firmly. "I left of my own accord after seeing you with Eliza. Ayoka has been helping me return home." James flushed at the mention of Eliza but quickly recovered. "Sarah, you misunderstood what you saw. Eliza means nothing to me. It was just a moment of weakness before our wedding. Your parents are worried sick. Everyone is. Come back with us now." One of James's companions spoke up. "And what about this Indian? How do we know he didn't have designs on her himself?" Ayoka remained calm, though Sarah could see tension in his posture. "The lady is returning to her family freely. I merely provide escort." "Sarah," James said, lowering his voice to sound reasonable, "think about what you're doing. Your family needs this marriage. The bank will foreclose on your farm without my father's support. All can be forgiven if you just come back now." For a moment, old doubts and fears threatened to overwhelm Sarah. She had responsibilities to her family. Was she being selfish in rejecting this marriage that would secure their future? But then she remembered Ayoka's words at the cliff. "So you believe your worth is measured only by what this man thinks of you?" "No, James," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Nothing can be forgiven because you have shown me exactly who you are. I would rather face poverty with dignity than wealth with a man who holds me in such low regard." James's face darkened with anger. "You're making a grave mistake, and consorting with Indians won't help your reputation either." "I believe," Ayoka interjected calmly, "the lady has made her choice clear. We will continue our journey to her parents' home, where she can explain matters to them directly." "This isn't over," James snapped, but he remounted his horse. "Your father will see reason even if you won't." As the 3 men rode away, Sarah found herself trembling with the aftermath of confrontation. "He's right about one thing," she said. "My family will lose the farm." "Perhaps," Ayoka replied, "but they will not lose their daughter to a life of misery. Sometimes we must lose something to gain something greater." They continued their journey, the encounter with James casting a shadow over Sarah's thoughts. By late afternoon, they had reached familiar territory, the outskirts of her family's farm. From a distance, Sarah could see her father working in the field, her mother hanging laundry near the modest farmhouse. "I should go alone from here," Sarah said, her throat tight with emotion. Ayoka nodded. "That would be wise." He reached into his saddlebag and withdrew a small wooden carving of an eagle. "Among my people, the eagle represents courage and vision. May it remind you of both." Sarah accepted the gift, moved by its significance. "Will I see you again?" "The future is unwritten," Ayoka replied. "But there are trading days in town. Perhaps our paths will cross." With those words, they parted, Ayoka disappearing back into the forest while Sarah urged her horse toward home. She saw the moment her mother spotted her, dropping a sheet and running toward her, calling her father's name. Within moments, both parents were rushing to meet her. Sarah dismounted and found herself enveloped in her mother's tight embrace. "We thought we'd lost you forever," her mother sobbed, "when you disappeared after running from the church." "I'm sorry for worrying you," Sarah said, tears flowing freely now. "But I couldn't marry James, not after what I saw." Her father's weathered face showed a mixture of relief and concern. "James told us you misunderstood, that he and Eliza were just talking." Sarah pulled back to look at both her parents. "They weren't just talking, Father, and when I confronted him on the road today, he as much as admitted it. He only wants our land." Her father's expression hardened. "He approached you on the road? Where have you been these past days?" "I found shelter with kind people," Sarah said, remembering Ayoka's advice. "They helped me sort through my thoughts. I know what breaking the engagement means for the farm, and I'm sorry, but I couldn't live a lie." To her surprise, her father pulled her into a fierce hug. "The farm is just land, Sarah. You are our daughter. Nothing matters more than your happiness." "But the bank," Sarah began. "We'll find another way," her father said firmly. "We always have." As they walked toward the house, Sarah felt both the weight of uncertainty and the lightness of truth. The future remained unclear, but for the first time, she felt she was walking toward it on her own terms, not those dictated by others. That evening, as they sat around the kitchen table, Sarah shared a version of her experience, carefully omitting specific details about the Cherokee village, while conveying the wisdom she had gained from Ayoka and his community. "These friends who helped you," her mother said shrewdly, "they weren't from town, were they?" Sarah hesitated, then shook her head. Her father nodded thoughtfully. "There are good people in many places, if we have eyes to see them." Something in his tone made Sarah wonder if he knew more about the Cherokee settlement than he had ever mentioned. Later, as Sarah settled into her own bed for the first time in days, she held Ayoka's eagle carving, thinking about how much had changed in such a short time. The journey ahead would not be easy. The farm's financial troubles remained, and facing the town's gossip would require courage. But she no longer felt defined by her relationship to James or by what others expected of her. Outside her window, an owl called into the night, and Sarah remembered something Amma had told her. "The owl sees what others cannot in the darkness. Sometimes we must pass through dark times to gain true sight." With that thought, she drifted into the first peaceful sleep she had known in many days. 3 months had passed since Sarah's return home, and winter had settled over Willow Springs with a blanket of snow. The Miller farm stood resilient against the cold, though changes were evident. They had sold a portion of their livestock and one field to meet the bank's demands, but had managed to keep the core of the homestead. Sarah had weathered the town's initial gossip storm with unexpected strength. Some blamed her for jilting James at the altar, while others, particularly the women who had witnessed James's wandering eye over the years, quietly supported her decision. Either way, the scandal had eventually given way to newer topics, as scandals always do. On this crisp December morning, Sarah wrapped herself in a woolen shawl and headed into town for supplies. The trading day brought merchants from surrounding areas, including occasionally, she had learned, Cherokee traders from the hidden settlement. Each time she went to town, she found herself scanning the crowd for a familiar face, though Ayoka had not appeared in the month since their parting. The main street bustled with activity as farmers and townspeople alike took advantage of the clear weather to conduct business before the next snowfall. Sarah had just finished purchasing flour and salt when she noticed a small gathering near the general store. Curious, she approached to find several Cherokee traders displaying beautifully crafted baskets, beadwork, and carved wooden items. Her heart quickened as she recognized Amma among them, carefully arranging a display of woven blankets. Sarah hesitated, unsure of the proper protocol. Would Amma acknowledge their friendship publicly? Was it safer for both of them if she simply passed by? Before she could decide, Amma looked up and their eyes met. A warm smile spread across the Cherokee woman's face as she beckoned Sarah forward. "It is good to see you well, my friend," Amma said quietly as Sarah approached. "And you," Sarah replied with genuine pleasure. "I didn't know you came to the trading days." "Not always," Amma explained. "But winter brings less garden work and more time for crafting. We trade what we make for things we cannot produce ourselves." Sarah noticed the quality of the items on display. Intricately woven baskets, delicately beaded jewelry, and sturdy wooden tools. "These are beautiful," she said, running her fingers over a blanket with geometric patterns woven in vibrant colors. Life continues, Amma said simply, as it should for you as well. How is your family? We've struggled, Sarah admitted, but we're managing. We kept most of the farm, though we had to sell some land to meet our debts. Amma nodded approvingly. Sometimes we must let go of some roots to save the tree. Your brother's wisdom seems to run in the family, Sarah said with a small smile. Then, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, she asked, How is Ayoka? He is well, Amma replied. He speaks of you sometimes, wondering if you found your path. A warm feeling spread through Sarah's chest at this revelation. I'm still finding it, she said, but I'm no longer lost. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of James Thornton and his father, Franklin, the wealthiest landowner in the county. They were deep in discussion until the elder Thornton spotted Sarah and nodded stiffly. James, however, pointedly looked away. The young man who broke faith with you? Amma asked perceptively. Sarah nodded. He married my cousin Eliza just 6 weeks after our incident. They seem happy enough, though I hear his father was displeased with the match. Eliza's family has no land to contribute to the Thornton holdings. And does this bring you pain still? Amma asked gently. Sarah considered the question honestly. No, she realized with some surprise. I feel sorry for Eliza, actually. I doubt James will be faithful to her either. Their conversation was again interrupted, this time by Sarah's father joining them. Sarah, I've finished at the bank. We should... He stopped short upon seeing Amma, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. Father, this is Amma, Sarah said, watching his reaction carefully. A friend who helped me during that time. To Sarah's surprise, her father removed his hat respectfully. Then I owe you my gratitude, miss. My daughter returned to us stronger than when she left. Amma inclined her head. She found her own strength. We merely reminded her to look for it. An understanding seemed to pass between them that Sarah couldn't fully interpret. Had her father known about the Cherokee settlement all along? As they prepared to leave, Amma pressed a small woven pouch into Sarah's hand. A gift, she said, from my brother as well as myself. Before Sarah could respond, a commotion erupted further down the street. Franklin Thornton was engaged in a heated argument with someone Sarah couldn't see. As the crowd shifted, she caught sight of Ayoka, standing calm and dignified despite Thornton's aggressive posture. Without thinking, Sarah moved toward them, her father following close behind. These prices are robbery, Thornton was saying loudly, gesturing at the finely crafted hunting knives on Ayoka's display. I'll give you half, not a penny more. The price is fair for the work, Ayoka replied evenly. Each knife takes many days to make. Listen here, Indian, Thornton began, but was interrupted by Sarah's father. Franklin, he said firmly, stepping into the confrontation. I've known you to drive a hard bargain, but never to be unfair. These knives would fetch twice this price in Columbus or Cincinnati. Thornton looked startled at the intervention. Thomas Miller, I didn't expect to find you defending Indian traders. I defend fair trade, Sarah's father replied. Something you taught me yourself, as I recall, when we first settled here. A complex expression crossed Thornton's face, part annoyance, part grudging respect. Perhaps I was hasty, he conceded, examining one of the knives more carefully. The craftsmanship is adequate. With that backhanded compliment, he paid the full asking price and walked away, calling for James to follow. As he passed Sarah, he paused briefly. Miller, he nodded curtly. Your father has unexpected allies these days. Once the Thorntons were out of earshot, Sarah turned to Ayoka, who was watching her with those same steady eyes that had anchored her at the cliff edge months ago. You came to town, she said simply. The winter trading is important to our people, he replied. Then, with the ghost of a smile, and I wish to see how your story was unfolding. Sarah's father cleared his throat awkwardly. I'll give you a moment, he said, stepping away to examine goods at a nearby stall, though he remained within sight. Thank you for the eagle carving, Sarah said. It sits by my window. A reminder. Of what? Ayoka asked. Of the moment my life changed course, she replied honestly, when someone asked me who taught me to give up. Their conversation was brief, constrained by the public setting and the realities of their different worlds. Yet in those few minutes, Sarah conveyed how she had begun teaching at the small-town school 3 days a week, how she had started experimenting with new farming techniques she'd read about, how she was slowly charting a path that was truly her own. "You have found your courage," Ayoka observed. "I'm finding it," Sarah corrected, day by day. As they prepared to part, Sarah hesitated, then asked, "Will you come again to the trading days?" "When the weather allows," Ayoka replied. "Our peoples live in separate worlds that touch only at the edges, but perhaps those edges can be places of understanding rather than conflict." Sarah's father rejoined them, carrying his purchases. "We should head back before the snow starts," he said, eyeing the gray clouds gathering on the horizon. Then to Ayoka he added, "You and your people are welcome to seek shelter at our farm if the weather turns while you're on the road." Ayoka looked surprised but nodded his thanks. A generous offer. As they parted, Sarah felt a sense of completion that had nothing to do with romantic notions. Her life had been broken open and reshaped by her encounter with Ayoka and his people, creating space for new possibilities she had never imagined. On the wagon ride home, her father was unusually quiet until finally he said, "That man, Ayoka, he's the one who found you, isn't he?" "Yes," Sarah admitted. "How did you know?" Her father kept his eyes on the road. "This land has many stories, Sarah. Before it was our farm, it belonged to others. I've always known about the settlement in the hills. Trading with them quietly has been mutually beneficial over the years." Sarah absorbed this revelation, seeing her father in a new light. "You never spoke of it. Some truths are better kept quiet in a place like Willow Springs," he replied. "But I'm glad they were there for you when you needed them." As their farm came into view, snow began to fall gently around them. Sarah opened the small pouch Amma had given her and found seeds, different from the corn seeds she had received months ago. A small note, written in careful English, explained, "Cherokee roses. They bloom even in difficult soil." Sarah smiled, thinking of how she would plant them in the spring, not as a reminder of what she had lost, but as a symbol of what she had found. Her life was taking a shape she never could have predicted on that fateful wedding day, a shape defined not by whom she would marry, but by who she was becoming. That evening, as snow blanketed the world outside, Sarah sat by the fire writing in her journal, a habit she had begun since her return. She was documenting not just daily events, but her thoughts, ideas, and observations about the changing world around her. Perhaps someday these writings might help another young woman questioning her place and purpose. She wrote of courage found at cliff edges, of wisdom from unexpected sources, of how sometimes one must fall to truly rise. And she wrote of a question that had changed everything. Who taught you to give up? Sarah had no easy answers for what lay ahead. The farm's future remained uncertain, and her path as an unmarried woman in this frontier society would not be without challenges. But as she closed her journal and looked at the eagle carving on her windowsill, she felt ready to face whatever came next, not because she was fearless, but because she had learned that fear was not the end of the story. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering both settler farms and Cherokee lands alike with the same pure blanket, separate worlds connected by invisible threads of understanding, respect, and the quiet acknowledgement of shared humanity.